Hello, Rebels and Imps. Thank you for joining me on Weaver's Wonderful World. On this episode of Star Wars Miniature Painting, I am doing a custom paint scheme for my first squad of Rebel troopers. These rebels come from the first core set based around the Galactic Civil War, between the Galactic Empire and the Rebel Alliance. The Rebel Troopers come in a squad of 4, with upgrades that allow them a 5th Trooper and a Heavy Trooper that has either a Z6 rotary cannon or an MPL-57 ion blaster. Each of those upgrades is another miniature to the squad, bringing the number up from 4 to 6. Here are all 7 miniatures, all 5 troopers with their A200 blaster rifle, and the 2 heavy troopers with their Z6 and MPL-57 blasters, disassembled for ease of making and painting. Now, first things first, I need to glue the magnets to the bottom of each base. For this, I'm using Gorilla Super Glue that has a brush. I use this because I don't have to worry about the glue drying in the spout and clogging it up. The magnets I'm using are 10mm round, 2mm thick neodymium magnets from Cobalt Keeps. I'll leave a link in the description for the website. And no, I was not paid to promote them. They don't even know who I am. But I like their bases, which I'll be using for Warhammer 40k. Just not for Legion because they don't have 27mm bases. Yet. I'll be buying just the magnets by themselves, once I can find a cheap resource to do so. Now that the magnets are on, it's time to glue the miniatures to the base. Now here, I forgot this figure wasn't one piece, and I drop in. Now that the minis are all glued to the bases, it's time for painting. Well, priming anyways. Here I'm using the Cobalt Keeps painting hilts and a pair of reverse tension tweezers from Squadron Products to mount the miniatures and their arms for individual priming. For the primer, I'm using Krylon Fusion in black. So, during the priming, I made a few critical errors. When it came to getting footage, a lot of the times I put the pieces out of frame so you couldn't see what I was doing. I'll be sure to remember that issue the next time I do miniature painting. And now to glue the captain together. Now to put on the Heavy Trooper's backpack, but for some reason, for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how to put it on. But I eventually figured it out. So, I hit the record button, but for some reason, the camera didn't start recording, which means I got none of the next priming step. Here, I tried to do a zenithal priming technique that I learned from a few YouTubers, but it didn't go over too well. However, I will be improving on this technique, hopefully later on. I used Krylon Fusion Matte White to try to get the lighting zenith effect. But now that they're all primed, it's time to start painting. The paint I'll be using for the miniatures will be hues of blue, brown, and some black. I'll be using Army Painter paints because it's cheaper than most other brands, but it is also a very good quality for the price. And even though I'm not using that specific set of paints, Fantasy Flight Games did partner with Army Painter to produce paint sets specifically for Legion armies. And I'm not gonna lie, I am a bit of a fan. So let's get down to painting these guys. I do apologize for all the blurriness that will be and has been in this video so far. So, for a minute, I forgot that I had the Cobalt Keep handles, and started painting the captain while just holding his base. But I started painting his trench coat the crystal blue. Crystal blue is going to be the primary color for all 7 Rebel Troopers. And I swear, I'll remember eventually that I have the paint handles. And on the trooper with the MTL 57 is where I remembered. Here, I popped the Duros' arms off so I could more easily paint his front. Next, I'll be using Ethereal Blue for their pants and highlights. Next, I'll be using Underdark Indigo for their undershirts. But first, need to paint the Duros' knee pads. Popping off arms to make painting easier. After that, I'll be using leather brown to do their backpacks, straps, and belts. There go another set of arms, this time from the character I'm designating as Rex. Now to go back and paint all their hats. Now it's time for some fine skin for their flesh tones. Now I'll be using lynch skin for the Duros' head. I'll be using Abyssal Black for their weapons and their boot cuffs. yet more arm removal. I then did eyes with lawful white, but I'm probably not going to show that because it's such a minute detail, and I kind of really suck at it at the moment. I also used it on the beards for the captain, the heavy gunner, and the character I have designated as Rex. With that, I'm going to paint the two models that have hair showing an angelic yellow. This is gonna sound strange, but I used glistening blood for the Duros' eyes. So, after I finished the Duros' eyes, I used Owlbear Brown for their boots and their gloves. Supergluing their arms back on was actually rather easy because once it had the lubrication from the liquid glue itself, the pieces actually slip back in fairly easily. To finish up their bases, I'm going to be using a Dragon Red. Next will be a coating of Shadow Wash to give them all definition. And now that the wash is on and complete, here is my first ever Rebel Squad for Star Wars Legion. So that's it for this episode of Star Wars Miniature Painting. As always, I'm your host, Ginsu Weaver. And remember, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Donuts are the best breakfast food, so eat up, stay healthy, and I'll catch you in the next one. May the Force be with you.